Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Weekly Spinner Rack. I'm your host, Chris, and we are going to talk about the week's comic book news, review the latest comic books that came out, maybe even have some time to draw, and we'll be chatting with a live audience the whole time. I'm also curious if you're reading this later on demand, put a comment down below, and I promise I'll take a look, and maybe we'll get a conversation going after the show airs. I just realized I started this about 1 to 2 minutes late. I'm usually really good at starting on time. I got myself set up pretty early this time, and so I'm like, sort of, just going like, okay, what else do I need to do? Nothing, I guess. I start playing a stupid, mobile game, right? And then all of a sudden I look up at the screen and I go, oh, I've got a show to do. So I apologize for being a minute or two late. That was pretty dumb. Man, it's been an up and down week for me. I have, just some really tough days, but I've had some really good days. And no, there's not an interview. I put my earbud in because I was listening to a video at the same time that I was playing a game. So pretty dumb. Yep, too much time to dilly-dally. Let's see. I'm keeping you company while you rearrange your office to fit more comics. Ooh, I like that. Hey, look at that. Thank you very much for the support, Steve. I'll consider this one in your honor. Got a little caffeine to keep me going. It's going to be a fun show, I promise. There's interesting news to talk about. It was, in comic book terms for weekly comics, a very light week. It's what they call a fifth week. Most weeks will have a full week in them. That's just good math. I know. Most months will have 4 Wednesdays where new comics come out. Every once in a while, just because of the way a month will be laid out, there'll be a fifth one. And that's sort of like weird for companies to sort of schedule. So they usually put out maybe an annual. Sometimes if a book is just looking to come out on a pretty consistent schedule of every 4 weeks, they'll still put it out, but not always. Sometimes they'll hold it one more week. So it's just a little weird. In other words, I only bought 2 comics this week for new comics. However, I went to a local indie comics festival with my friend Dave from West Coast Avengers, and I picked up some interesting indie books. Look, first new Robert Crumb comic in over 20 years. Had to pick that up, and I got around to reading a new release manga that I picked up at New York Comic-Con that will be available for everyone very soon. So I have some comics to talk about, and I can talk about the Short Run Comics Festival, which was a great little indie comics festival. Dave got me a really nice bumper sticker. I'm Carr. I don't know. We just both thought that was pretty funny. Guy had some pretty clever bumper stickers, but this one was our favorite. I'm Carr. No, I should read Batman and Robin year 1 because I really love Chris Samnee's art, but I just haven't picked it up yet. And maybe as a, a trade paperback, I'll start reading those. Yeah, everybody here helped my sister out. She had put her dog Twiggy, who's an Italian Greyhound, in a costume as a Greyhound bus, and then was in a Halloween competition for her local animal shelter, and her dog won. We raised a bunch of money for charity. Appreciate the votes, folks. That was really, really kind of you, and it's nice to honor Jeannie's late dog in this way, as well as help a nice local animal shelter. Let's see. Steve says Taco Bell is releasing a Mountain Dew Baja Blast Pie. That sounds so sugary. Just in time for Thanksgiving. You should get it and review it on the stream. Yeah, and then I'll just have a quick heart attack and die. What else? Anything else, I guess, that I'll talk about in terms of the stress and the highlights of the week? I'll wait till later in the show. I think what we'll do is we'll do the news, we'll do some reviews, and then I'll do a little bit of sketching because I haven't done that in a while on the show. And I'll talk about, what's going on behind the scenes. There is a Comic Tropes that is super, super close to being finished, just so that you know. But yeah, why don't we start with the news of the week?
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Hi guys, this is April O'Neil from Channel 6 News, and I am here in beautiful New York City.
News, reviews, and Mountain Dews. That is what the show is becoming, yes. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you about the stressful stuff right up top. You have to wait for that fun stuff. Oh, I also picked up myself a new t-shirt because Dave and I stopped by the actual Fantagraphics store. I love Love and Rockets. It was like within the first 10 episodes of my show that I ever made. And this is my favorite cover by Jaime Hernandez. Just a really cool shirt. So I don't know how I've never had it before, but I haven't. So just got it. And yeah, we'll absolutely be talking a little later about the Daniel Warren Johnson Absolute Batman story that I've got in the thumbnail. But first, let's start with some fun news. There's a push to rename a New York City street after Jack Kirby, which I think would be a fantastic bit of local history for the city and just a great way to honor an artist that all of us, I think, love and respect. Oh, hold on. Look, Love and Rockets. Bauhaus was the superior band. I'm wearing the same shirt. You guys have good taste. Look at that. All right. What am I talking about here? So, comic book historian Roy Schwartz is the driving force, apparently, behind this. He's been working to rename one block of Essex Street in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, which is, of course, the block that Jack Kirby grew up in the Great Depression era. Between Delancey and Rivington, he wants it to be named Jack Kirby Way. So, a petition was held. Enough people signed it. The local committee approved it to go to the city council. Next step is a vote by the city council on whether they will formally rename that street for the permanent. Like they did it for a day or two to promote the Fantastic Four movie, but that was ceremonial. This would be like literally renaming it. And CBS News New York, local news, reported that it was likely to get approved and that they would have a ceremony with Kirby's kids and grandkids and probably some other people that knew him, which would be wonderful. I think that would be really cool. Probably get some comic book nerds in town for things like New York Comic Con to just swing by and take a picture of that sign, Jack Kirby Way. Take a picture of the block that he lived on. It would be cool. It would be really cool. Zoran does seem like the kind of guy that would be okay with just being like, yeah, of course. He's part of New York heritage. Like, absolutely. You would be annoyed if you lived on that block? I think you'd get used to it. I hope it happens. I'll keep you updated. And one of the Arrowverse creators sold his comic to Apple TV. I'll get into that. So Apple Original Films, not the Apple TV, but the actual films part of Apple, bought the rights to adapt the Dark Horse comic Last Flight Out. And if you don't know about it, it was a 6-issue series that came out from 21 through 22, and it was by comic book and TV writer Mark Guggenheim. Really nice guy. Met him a few times at conventions. Had him on my old TV podcast back in the day. And and it's by artist Edward Ferragato, who many people know now as one of the artists on Radiant Black, but this is another thing that he did. Great artist. I think he's from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Yeah. The story, if you haven't read it, it's a cool story. Humanity is leaving Earth. It's inhospitable, and there's an engineer, an architect who's designed these spaceships that can shuttle all of humanity out of this, sort of toxic, polluted planet. And then at the last minute, his estranged daughter goes missing, isn't there to check in for getting on this last ship. So he has to venture out into the world to find her. Guggenheim is going to write the film adaptation himself. It's going to be directed by Sam Hargraves. You may have heard that name if you've watched comic book adaptations. He did the Extraction movies with Chris Hemsworth, and those are based on comic books. Yeah. And Sam Hargraves apparently also does one of the Apple TV shows called The Last Frontier. But I got to admit, I haven't seen that. I don't have Apple TV. I have a coworker that loves the shows on Apple TV. He's always telling me about the one that's based on Asimov and Slow Horses, he says is great. It's both. It's both our comic and the future. Yeah, there's a bit of like Wall-E with just like humanity leaving in spaceships, polluted world. But it's also like that idea. I think that there's a level that we can relate to where you're afraid of missing a train or a plane or an automobile. No, where you're just like, oh my God, am I going to make my flight? And what if you could amp those stakes up to, if I miss my flight, I don't survive. So I don't think I haven't read it all. I don't think it deals too much with the class warfare. It's like everybody's leaving, I think. Severance, I do watch. Severance is fantastic. I agree. I've gotten like when you can get, a promotion to watch one of these streaming services for free for like a week. I've done that, and Chrissy and I will just binge Severance. But I haven't seen Silo. I've heard that that's also good. Could be fun, though. Could be a fun movie. Absolute Batman got delayed. Not this one. This one came in. This is quick. Writer Scott Snyder posted to Twitter that Absolute Batman number 14, which is going to be the finale of the Batman versus Bane story arc that's going on, is going to be delayed. Specifically, he explained that the issue's coming out November 26th instead of the 12th. So 2-week delay because, quote, Nick and I added 5 extra pages to the final fight with Bane. We tried to make a version where we squeezed it in at 20 pages, but it felt cramped, and DC was awesome about giving us extra space and time. I feel like that's a totally fair compromise. I will wait 2 weeks for 5 more pages of action by somebody like Nick Dragata. I will. That's reasonable enough. Yeah, that's not the same as like putting in a fill-in artist in the middle of an arc or anything weird like that. Could be good. I've really enjoyed just how scary this arc is. Like, Batman himself has gone through just some of the worst torture I've seen a hero go through. And it's like, yeah, okay, I don't think the character's going to die, but do I think it's going to change him? It already has. It already has. And I'm fascinated with seeing Killer Croc totally transformed into a crocodile animal, but seemingly retaining enough of his humanity to remain an ally of Bruce Wayne. That's an interesting little twist. Maybe his friends, who all got, abused and turned into monsters and look closer to their villainous versions from what we know in old comics, maybe they'll still be allies of Bruce. I don't know. There you go. Yeah, I think it's a totally reasonable choice if they're like, look, we just like 5 more pages on this. And DC's like, the book sells like gangbusters. Do what you want. You've got the right instincts. But I also thought it would be worth pointing out that I think that this is a nice indication of why I think DC is doing things very well right now. Scott put this into words when he did that walk and talk interview with me a few weeks ago, where DC is aiming to be creator first. You know, they've got these properties, but they're not just trying to say like, okay, we need to have a Dr. Fate book, we need to have a Zatanna book, we need to have a Detective Chimp book, and we need to have an Outsiders book. No, instead they're figuring out what creative teams have a cool idea to play in their sandbox, and then just sort of let them go and do that. I think we're seeing that with the Absolute line, where there's very little in terms of rules, and this next level thing that has pairings like Scotty Young and Jorge Corona on Lobo. You know, like these are cool creator first ideas. And the idea of like the creator saying, we would like to do additional pages for an action scene, and DC going like, yeah, okay. I like that. I feel like DC's making a lot of good choices in the last year. It has had some fill-ins, but I think that they've positioned them well. I think they've only had 2 fill-ins, if I'm thinking right? One with Jock and one with, who was the other artist? I can't remember right now. I think that there were only 2 fill-ins, and they were both single-issue stories set between bigger arcs, or something close to that. I could be a little off. That's right. Clayman just did an issue. You're right. Okay. Yep. Owen, nice to see you, buddy. Yeah. There's still a few things at Marvel that I appreciate. I feel like a lot of my interests tend to lie these days at, publishers like Image and Fantagraphics and IDW and Dark Horse. But there's still like superhero stuff that I appreciate when it's done well. And I think that DC is really, really doing well right now. That's all. Marcos Martin, he did the Mr. Freeze, right? It's always nice to see Owen. If you guys don't know, Owen Likes Comics is another comic book YouTuber that does analysis of stories or writers and stuff like that, like deep dives. So strongly recommended. DC has canceled a Brian Michael Bendis trade paperback. However, I'm talking about this to dispute some of the rumors that started when this news broke this week. So first of all, earlier this week, DC reached out to retailers and told them that they were canceling the orders for the pre-orders for Batman Universe, the Deluxe Edition. And that was going to be a hardcover collection of comics by Brian Michael Bendis and Nick Darrington. He's a great artist. Like criminally underused and really good on Batman. Sorry, phone buzzed. So why did they cancel that? Well, there were instantly rumors on social media, message boards, Reddit, Bleeding Cool had an article, and it was all speculating that Bendis is coming back to Marvel, and therefore, for some reason, DC wouldn't want to print something that they've already got by him. Which didn't quite make sense to me, because I've seen companies, if anything, try to time it that they've got something by a big name writer or artist, and they release, a reprint or a new edition almost to like sort of water down the news from the competition. It'd be like, why would they be so offended that they wouldn't use it? They already own it. But here's the thing. The Beat said that they spoke with a source at DC and that they heard that the reasoning was much more mundane, that the trade is simply going to have a bunch of back matter material, behind the scenes artwork, stories about the making of these comics. and that stuff wasn't ready. So it's really just a delay. It was going to come out February 2026. They just don't have a new date yet. So they were just canceling the initial orders, and they're going to like resolicit it. So it's a lot more mundane than like something petty. If you don't know what this is, that's understandable, because this was originally a story that was published at Walmart. I don't know if you guys remember that for a little while, DC was doing these 80-page giants that were sold through Walmart. But it didn't do very well because Walmart didn't put them with their other books and magazines. They put them up front with things like the Pokemon cards and, blind box figures, which is not where people were looking for them. So it wasn't really pushed very well. It should have been a point of purchase with, if anything, the magazines that are right there by checkout, and if not that, then with the books and magazines. People are browsing reading material. They might have seen it. So it didn't really sell very well. But Nick Darrington is an awesome artist, and it's a weird sort of sci-fi Batman story. Every once in a while, somebody's got a sci-fi Batman story, and this one was Batman chasing Vandal Savage through time and space. Tom King did Superman. That's right, for the Walmart exclusive at the same time. Up, Up, and Away. Let's see. Yeah, the literature with the non-literature makes sense. It's like Walmart and Target sell so many comics, but it's not the comics you're thinking of for most of us. It's not Marvel and DC. They're selling Raina Telgemeier and Dogman and, of course, like manga. Well, yeah. Get your own exclusive stuff from Marvel or DC or Image, but put it with that, and to the publishers, I'd say maybe look into doing more compact comics that you could easily fit side by side on a shelf with those Scholastic books, with that manga, have it be a similar size, and then people are more likely to give it a shot. Tom King's Superman, Up, Up, and Away is chef's kiss. I've heard good things. I haven't read that. And I do generally like Tom King's stories. I certainly talked a lot about how much I liked Helen of Windhorn with Bilquis Evely, as well as Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Vision, Human Target. He's done some great books. Not everything, though. All right, Larry, thank you. Hey, Chris, I'm in Mexico on a trip and noticed that in Walmarts, the magazine sections have tons of comics, a whole shelf of manga too. Am I wrong, or do we not have that in the US? We definitely don't. We definitely don't. That's interesting. That's interesting. Huh. The trade of Naruto TMNT is stocked at Walmart. Well, that good for IDW for getting that on the. I haven't seen. You know what? Now that I'm thinking of it, I've got a Target that's close to me that I go into occasionally. But now that I'm thinking of it, I don't have a nearby Walmart really, so I'm probably not in it as much as I was just thinking. I was sort of thinking, oh, well, I go to Walmart every once in a while, but now that I'm thinking of it, I guess I actually don't. I go to Target, which is different, and Target doesn't have that. I guess I haven't seen what Walmart has on its magazine sections right now. I'm not surprised that it has manga. That's interesting that it has trade paperbacks too. Good. That's nice to see. I'm sure that is getting some new readers. It's just such a mainstream thing where they're selling it cheaper than everywhere else, and lots of people are there. So that's the closest we can sort of get to a newsstand right now. Thanks for the info, guys and gals and all. Lanterns apparently is not going to adapt any specific comic. This is the upcoming Green Lantern show with Hal Jordan. Look, there's his ring. And John Stewart. So this was the craziest place for this to happen. The showrunner of Lanterns, which is going to be an HBO live action show if you don't know, he did an interview about Lanterns with Men's Health, the fitness magazine. Okay. And he was asked specifically at one point what actor Aaron Pierre did to portray Jon Stewart. Got a little details. Mundy said, our story takes place in a couple of different time periods. And so the challenge was for the characters to be consistent at their core. John's sort of a different person in one of them than he is in another. Okay. Hadn't heard that before. He also had this quote, everybody did varying degrees of comic book homework on their own. And we, including co-creators Damon Lindelof and Tom King, were there to answer any questions, but we aren't telling one specific chapter that's already existed in the comics. Our characters are true to the comics, but we're putting them in a new story. I don't know how exactly I feel about that. I guess I'll wait and see. But by that token, you could say, okay, well, Peacemaker or Superman weren't technically based on an existing story, but they took elements of defining the characters. So we'll see. Yeah, Kyle Chandler plays Hal Jordan in Lanterns. He's joining the DCU. He's good. I think he's a good fit. It's an interesting idea. Obviously, a little bit of an older Hal Jordan, and then a younger Jon Stewart. But I feel like that also could benefit the characters. And yeah, I don't know. I think that casting-wise, I have no complaints. I think these two guys are really good fits. The fact that Aaron Pierre has those super green eyes naturally is sort of an extra advantage. Like, he doesn't have to put in contacts. He has very clear green eyes. Yeah, I kind of like that there's different age ranges for these heroes, and I don't know, could work. I tend to think of him as a little bit older too, but a lot of times that's because like they presented him like that in the 90s. They gave him like, white on the side of his hair. But other than that, he's generally written to be a young guy. I'll talk about another DCU thing. The Clayface star teased some movie details. It's pretty wild that one of the first 10 projects in the DCU is a Clayface horror movie. All I can do is hope that means that it was a fantastic script. Anyway, the star of it is a guy named Tom Reese-Harries, and he posted a story to his Instagram that was an image from the movie set, and he also captioned here, Clayface picture wrap. There might be hints hidden within this as to the tone of this horror movie. Up here, there's some graffiti that says, want in one hand, shit in the next, see which gets full first. I think that sort of that's such a nihilistic phrase. To me, it hints at a type of depression or feeling like something can't be accomplished, which could be an interesting angle to go with somebody like Clayface that feels like either before or after, or maybe both, like the fact that, you try to do a change in your life, but that doesn't necessarily change who you truly are. Let's see. I'm hoping to get cast as Dex Star, please. Work on your cat impression, Steve. Maybe. We have seen small hints of Batman, to be fair, in Creature Commandos. So he's out there. He does exist already, in other words. We just haven't seen him like talk or do anything. What else? This says go where the chalk white is all you can see, but that's definitely part of a quote from the Shel Silverstein book of poems, Where the Sidewalk Ends. So I don't know, maybe that hints to some sort of a childlike element. I don't know. Could this Clayface have a kid? Could he just feel childlike? I don't really know. Clayface seemingly did die. So but Gunn said that it will all make sense once we see this. That was, in my opinion, such a good encapsulation of the Clayface ideas, because there've been like 6 Clayfaces, I think, in DC Comics. But the best one is the actor that, it happens to. And also the photos include someone with a bag on their head and possibly, yeah, you can't see it too well, but like when it's moving as the video, you can see it a little better. Somebody with like a disfigured face, it seems like. Clayface is a shapeshifter, so maybe these refer to an element like that. Or maybe this is, supposed to be the actual character he plays, like he is an actor. Maybe these are just reference photos for something Clayface is in, and maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know. Exactly. Clayface can seemingly die and like come back, just like Sandman or Hydro Man, something like that. Probably some body horror going on. James Gunn has said that this will be a straight up horror movie. Did you guys ever see the it was like 92, I guess, Batman the Animated Series, the first time they did Clayface? That episode was one of the best animated episodes of the Batman cartoon. It was done by a Japanese studio, and I'm trying to remember. They're a big, prominent one. And there's that one scene at the very end, sort of the climax of the episode, where the character can't hold together all the characters he's been shape-shifting into, and he's rapidly shifting between them. Yeah, Feet of Clay. Is it TMS? I don't remember. Maybe it was. Yeah, I think they also did Cyber 6. No, it wasn't Ghibli. But they did a lot of great stuff. Like, and go back and you're like, oh, well, this one's significantly more detailed than a lot of cartoons at the time. Yeah, I think it is TMS. And I think it also did do the Cyber 6 cartoon. Yeah. Anyway, just really, really good. Okay. The way you're saying it, I guess you looked it up. Worth watching. Worth watching. Morrison has announced some more comics. Grant Morrison. So Grant Morrison announced on their Substack newsletter that writing the Batman Deadpool story has reinvigorated their love of comics. They say that they spent all of the last year working on a Hollywood project that probably won't come out, and they're writing it off as like a wasted year. It's just a write-off. But reignited their interest. So going back to do more comics, they announced the return of Sebastian O with original artist Steve Yoel. It was originally a 3-issue Vertigo series that ran very early in Vertigo's run. Sebastian O is a flamboyant assassin in a steampunk type of world. So very, very different than a lot of other things I can think of that Grant Morrison has written. Morrison also wrote about some other upcoming comics. Quote, a couple of horror things I mentioned before. The Hangman Song and Vaster Than Empires. Worlds Collide with director and Beats of War creator Etienne Kuboabo has been delayed from this year to the end of 2026, but it's finally back on schedule. Okay with me. Hey, whatever they need to do to keep the, creative energy up. That's awesome. This is interesting. Going back to the previous news item, saying TMS, because I was talking about them animating the Clayface episode, TMS also did the best episodes of Gargoyles? Really? Gargoyles was well animated. I'm not an expert on it, but I know that it's well animated. So maybe this is as good a segue I can get as any to let you folks know that there's basically a sponsor to this episode. So, with that said, roll that beautiful bean footage.
Hi, this is Greg Weisman, the Gargoyles writer, here to report that on January 14th, 2026, you will not want to miss the Gargoyles Darkwing Disney Afternoon crossover event, co-plotted by myself and Darkwing creator Tad Stones, written by me, and with art by Ciro. It is a funny as hell comic book for this unlikely combination. Check it out.
So there we go. January, a new, I would say, pretty unlikely comic coming out from Dynamite, Gargoyles Darkwing Duck. Well, they're both Disney. They're both crime fighters, but obviously one is significantly more humorous than the other. So congrats to them for coming up with such a bonkers idea. Thank you to Dynamite for being a sponsor. And yeah, just keep your eyes out. I looked when I got this offer. I didn't see order codes yet. When I find them out, I'll share it. But yeah, just wanted you guys to know that. I'll play that again later in the episode in case there's like new people that are jumping in. But I thought that was pretty cool. That sounds fun. I wonder what the realistic Gargoyles would make of an anthropomorphic duck. I don't know. At the same time, if the folks that actually created this material, Greg Weisman and Tad Stones, are both involved, I think that they've probably got an idea. So good for them. Yeah, a mini-series. All right. I'm going to go back to the news. I've got one that's a little different from what I usually cover. Let's bring this up. Mom's Attic hid a very rare Superman comic. It's this one right here that we will be talking about. So, Heritage Comics is going to auction off later this month. I think around November 20th to the 22nd. They've got like a lot going. A copy of Superman #1 from 1939. It has a CGC grade of 9.0. How did they get that high of a grade? There's a reason. It's a cool story. So basically, a trio of brothers was going through their late mother's attic. This was actually all the way back around December of last year. And they came across a comics collection that she and her brother had from when they were children. It included Superman. The comics were purchased when this late mother was growing up in the Depression era. And it was always kept in an attic in San Francisco. Consistent temperature, fairly cool, very dry, perfect conditions for keeping the comic from in any way going bad. It kept it in fantastic condition. It was sort of behind a bunch of old newspapers, which it also, I think, sort of protected it from the elements and absorbed any extra moisture. Just a bunch of rare circumstances. Where I mean, this is 1939. 1939. Over 80 years ago. Over 80 years ago. And they came across that. The CGC census, they keep a track of old, valuable Golden Age stuff. They only have 3 other copies of Superman #1 that are listed above a 7.5. So this is probably the highest graded Superman #1 that's been found, that exists. And the auction is also going to have 5 old Action Comics issues as well. And it's expected to set a record. They're expecting it to go for about $6 million. No mice or bugs, no leaky roofs, no nothing. It was just a bunch of random circumstances. It was just left alone in perfect in a perfect climate, and it happens to be like probably the best copy that exists. It's a lovely little story that it exists. Do I care what it sells for? Not really. It's going to go to somebody very wealthy. Hopefully they take good care of it. But as a historical bit, it's cool that it exists. That is cool. And I'm not against something this valuable getting slabbed to help protect it. It's probably for the best. I'll get that issue. Yeah. No, they haven't addressed it. So is it actually happening, or was it like a sort of a rare isolated case? Still not known yet. That's a good question, but still not known. Let's see. When I find something like this, I will cash out and move to Scotland or Japan. Hey, as long as you get a room for me, I need one that's about 600 to Tommy Matt's. Just get me a room that big. Let's see, current bid already at 3.18 million. So those are like, the pre-bids that you can put in before they actually have the live auction. Maybe, I don't know who's going to get it. Deal, thank you. Oh, I'm sure that the comic is worth more than the house. Well, you know what? Now that I say that, maybe I shouldn't be so sure. I mean, it's a house in the San Francisco area with an attic. So that does imply a certain amount of size, and that's a very expensive area to live. So who knows? So pretty cool, though. That belongs in a museum. And also, hey, kid, I need you to get me all green jelly beans. Yes, you get to buy a castle with a lock. Anyway, that's enough of all of that. Now, it's just cool that it exists. Just cool. Talking about a convention, GalaxyCon shut down just 2 weeks before they were going to have a show. So I've never been to one of these, but I guess there's a group called GalaxyCon, and it runs conventions in Richmond, Virginia, Raleigh, North Carolina? Yeah. And San Jose, California. They were about to launch their first one in Milwaukie. Okay. This week, they posted this to their Facebook page. Quote, "Due to circumstances beyond our control, we have decided to postpone our debut in Milwaukie for our 2025 tour. The recent government shutdown has resulted in a massive challenge for our planned inaugural event in Wisconsin. Between additional costs, transportation delays, and economic uncertainty for attendees and vendors who are themselves federal employees, the current climate has resulted in some creative adjustments to our events that we feel have not reflected this kind of showing we wish to present to our attendees in these new markets." I'll be honest, I'm a little confused exactly how the government shutdown affected them. Like maybe with like shipping and stuff. I don't know. It confused me a little, but if it's the first time they're doing it, I guess I get it. I was really hoping for more details or even more transparency. I maybe you guys can interpret that in a way that I'm not. I was a little confused why it would affect them. Let's see. This person says, "Gone to the San Jose one. It's a good one. Thanks, Space Debris Comics." Yeah, in Milwaukie. It happens. I mean, I do. Thank you. I'm a big fan of this shirt. I am seeing some really depressing stuff out there with how tight people's budgets are. I really am. It's sad because, my passion lies in a form of entertainment, which I think has extreme artistic merit, but I also understand that on some level, it's a luxury. You need shelter and food and clothing before you need to read something. fortunately, there are outlets like libraries that provide some pretty amazing services, including digital comics these days. I really recommend the Hoopla app if you've never used it. But yeah, it was interesting to see that they felt that this would be such an impact. Trash cleanup, yeah, that could be a piece of it, I suppose. I don't think it's a protest. I really think that they just felt like they couldn't pull it off right at the last minute. I'm just a little surprised. If I was in Virginia, I could see the shutdown affecting it. But Milwaukee, I don't know. Flying is pretty bad right now. That is true. That is true. Yeah. A couple people mentioning maybe that there's some delays there. Anyway, just to like cap this, I'll just say that they've pushed the event out 1 year. So they're still going to do it, but they're going to do it October 30th of 2026. So I'd sort of say that, except that they definitely plan to still do it. And they said that they're just going to have to start fresh, like renegotiate with all the attendees and guests and stuff. But probably for the best to cancel it if you do have that uncertainty, as compared to putting on a disastrous convention, Since I'm talking about conventions, here's the opposite end of the spectrum. Lucca Comics and Games Festival is a humongous Italian comics convention. Humongous. It posted huge records for its attendance. So they said, they themselves, Lucca said that they set a new record for 2025, highest attendance yet, 280,000 tickets sold. And on top of that, 17,000 industry professionals from around the world attended. Wow. Those are massive numbers. That's I was pretty recently talking about how big New York Comic-Con was. It's very big, but that's a little bigger. That is definitely a bit bigger. Here's some of the stuff that went on there. Tetsuo Hara, one of the creators of Fist of the North Star. Do I have a copy here? Yeah. The artist. It was written by Morrison, but Fist of the North Star. I love this manga. So over the top, but also so influential as a post-apocalyptic and as a martial arts manga. Great, fun, very violent, very over the top. But anyway, Tetsuo Hara was the artist. He received an award there, the award, the Yellow Kid Award. He also had his self-portrait added to the Uffizi Gallery, where comic book artists, bande dessinée artists draw themselves. This is the first time a manga creator has been represented in the Florentine Museum's collection. So I think that's really cool. Did Tyler Crook go? Oh man, I should find out. If he did, congrats. I would love to go to something like that. Oh, a bunch. In fact, like Marvel had a presence there. Yeah, there was definitely a lot. So very cool, first of all, for Tetsuo Hara to get that award and to be added to that gallery. Panini. You may remember Panini. They, at one point, owned Marvel UK. They licensed Marvel, DC, Image books for the European market. They announced that they're going to launch an original Scrooge McDuck comic. It's called Scrooge in Atlantis, and that starts in January in Topolino magazine. And if you don't know, that's Mickey Mouse magazine. That's just the Italian word for it. So Topolino has been running a very, very long time. Ran throughout World War II. Supposedly Mussolini was he was stopping imported magazines and books and comics, but his kids really loved Topolino. So he kept that one going until the very end of the war. They did briefly ban it, but yeah. So cool. Panini's doing a new thing. By the way, I just thought of this since I was talking about Scrooge McDuck. Don Rosa announced this week that he's going to go back on tour. He had to cancel a bunch of appearances because his wife passed away. And she'd been dealing with Alzheimer's for a long time, and then I guess she got cancer on top of it, which acted really fast because, you know, she was just too far gone, and he had to take care of her, but it happened pretty fast. And then he had to settle their affairs because they didn't have any kids. So it was a little sad, but he's past that. And so he's announced he's going to go back on tour. And Don Rosa, a lot of people love all the Donald Duck and Scrooge McDuck stories he did. Panini is massive in Europe. They handle a lot of comics. I hope I started to indicate that by saying Marvel, DC, Image, but yes, they're big. They're big. Thank you for the super chat, Michael. With problems surrounding us, I hope you and everyone in chat are well. And if someone is not, I hope things get better for them and that they matter. That's very, very kind of you, Michael. Thank you very much. And thank you for the super chat. It helps me these days. Yes. Did I see the Neil Adams original art for Superman 233 cover is in the same auction as that 9.0 Superman 1? I didn't see that. I didn't look that closely. I was more interested in the family's story of finding, you know, it's the idea that like we all want to like find, you know, in an attic, in a basement, in a collection somehow, something incredibly valuable. And it was just a fun story to share. Tyler did get to attend Lucca. Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. I would love to go. Yeah, Panini also licenses manga. They're a big organization. They might, I've heard, they are potentially interested in selling themselves. Now, they are big. They've had interest from Topps, the cards, in getting purchased by Topps. I don't know what that would do because I think of it as such a European institution and Topps is American. I'm sure that, you know, if they did, of course, they'd install European governance to run that side of the company, but that would be so weird. Yeah, I've heard that Panini might think of selling themselves. I think you can get by. I've heard I've had some friends go to different European conventions, and they say that it's not that hard to get by. Here's another thing that was announced at Lucca, but you guys probably already know this. Bird's Eye Frozen Foods. You know, chicken tendies that you make at home. They introduced the Captain Birdseye comic that was created in a competition among students of the Italian International School of Comics. Yeah. So that got announced there. The Captain Birdseye comic. Hey, because, you know, when you think of frozen chicken, you think of a sea captain, right? With a big white beard? Yeah, perfect place to announce the Captain Birdseye comic. I don't know what to make of that, but I had to include it. That's the kind of extra comic book news you get here on the Weekly Spinner Rack. Wait, what? Finally, yes. The only comic you can buy with Good Boy points. It's really the chicken of the land, though. They're not making a tuna comic. They're making a chicken comic. A sea captain with a chicken on his shoulder. I don't know. That's just who has always been their mascot. Help me, Captain Birdseye. My air fryer broke, and I need chicken fingers. Derek, there might be a market for you. Time to reach out to who has Charlie Tuna? Who makes that one? We'll make him into a comic book. All right. Look at me. I am the Captain Chicken now. You are. And I'm Carr. Starkist, yes. Derek, why don't you pitch Starkist? Well, Orson Welles doesn't do nearly as much voice acting ever since he died back in like 85. He just, You could call it lazy. Maybe he's just not interested, but for whatever reason, his corpse has done very little voiceover work since he passed away.
For a time, I considered sparing your wretched little planet, but now you shall witness its dismemberment.
He voiced Transformers. Marvel announced a new Punisher series at Lucca. So CB Cebulski announced that there would be a new Punisher ongoing. They've been doing miniseries here and there, but this is going to be an ongoing. Creative team is the same writer as the current Red Band comic, Benjamin Percy. They've got artist Jose Luis Soares, or maybe it's Soares? I don't know. Anyway, they promised that it will continue from the current Red Band limited series where Frank Castle has come back. That's my perfect impression of Oscar Isaac. Anyway, and he has a damaged memory, which sounds like they're just like treading water until they can think of a good reason why he came back from World or Battle World, wherever he went. I don't know. Percy says the first arc is going to have Punisher being hunted by his archenemy, Jigsaw. And I get why they're doing it now. Punisher's about to be in the Spider-Man movie and have his own Disney Plus special and be in season 2 of Daredevil. I guess you got to have a Punisher comic on the stands to hook those readers. But I'm used to the last several Punisher stories that like being a little more creator forward. In other words, you know, letting them do something very different. Like, you know, Rick Remender and Tony Moore get it. Okay, they're going to create Frankencastle. Totally wild. You're going to get Jason Aaron on it. Okay, he becomes the Beast for the Hand. He like, and they bring his kids back to life. You know, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Yeah, I think right now, well, you can say that Kingpin and a bunch of Kingpin's flunkies like Bullseye are sort of Daredevil villains as well as, Punisher villains as well as Daredevil and Spider-Man villain. So, but like for him himself, he's kind of just had Barracuda and Jigsaw are the only really prominent ones that lasted any good amount of time. But even Barracuda was more of like the Punisher Max line as compared to the main continuity line, and he's gone now. But I like Barracuda. Barracuda was a really good Punisher villain. I wish that they'd find a way to sort of the Russian, but he really wasn't in that many stories. He's really in just like 2 quick stories. Don't get me wrong, Ennis had some fun with him, but he also didn't, I don't know. Well, sort of yes, sort of no. Like, but I take your meaning. Yes. I was trying not to explicitly just like do an exposition dump on the Jason Aaron Punisher run. It was wild. It was wild. Oh, Barracuda. What's your favorite song by Heart, folks? Crazy on You is probably their best known. Barracuda is fantastic. But I'm trying to think. Like, I'm looking at my music that's on my phone. I know I've got a couple by Heart. Let me see what I've got that I like. Oh, maybe I don't have as many as I thought I did. They do a cover of You're the Voice that's pretty good. Magic Man. Yeah, no, there's a... Which one am I thinking of that I love? It's the one that's like sung by the younger sister that wasn't always the main singer. It was one of their later songs. Like around 89 or something like that. Never. No, No, that's not it. Never was good, but that was 85. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to remember. It's not coming to me. Maybe it is Never that I like, though. Yeah, it is. That's the one I'm thinking of. That's probably my favorite. Never. All right. Yeah, I've seen Goran Parlov post stuff to his social media. I'll see it on Instagram and stuff. It's very cool. I wish he'd do more comics too. That would be cool. All right, so this was fairly big news that also got announced at Lucca. Zdarsky is going to oversee something called Armageddon. So Marvel said that that's the name of their next event, Armageddon. Chip Zdarsky is overseeing it. Starts in June, so it's still a ways off. And Marvel has said, not like explicitly who the main characters are or anything, they're just teasing at it with like this image. And they said that it's going to impact, and they call them Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which to me implies the Avengers specifically. They said that it would impact them in a similar way to Avengers Disassembled. Sounds depressing, but maybe it'll be good. I do like Chip Zdarsky a lot. Marvel said that the groundwork for the event is taking place right now in Chip Zdarsky's Captain America run, as well as the recent Miles Morales Incursion storyline where Miles went to the Ultimate Universe. And that makes sense in both regards. I think that this simple image does hint at some things. Yeah, I know. I asked people what their favorite Heart song was, and I didn't highlight them all. I'm a terrible person. I like that this is very minimalist, but it hints at two important elements of the story, believe it or not, in my opinion. So the promo, first of all, it's bright red. And to me, that indicates that Red Hulk could play a very important role. Thunderbolt Ross. Red Hulk is an important character in Chip Zdarsky's current Captain America run. And it's red. So that's just me putting that together. I don't know that that's a fact. Also, this silhouetted hero is definitely carrying what's called an origin box. And that, in the simplest terms, is in the Ultimate Universe, a villain called the Maker went through time and prevented the superheroes of the world, and sometimes even supervillains, from getting their powers. He'd put, say, a radioactive spider in a box, and therefore Peter Parker doesn't become Spider-Man. And those are called origin boxes. Well, Miles came back to the main continuity with some of those origin boxes. Not the Cosmic Cube, definitely an origin box. Always be a homie, especially in uncertain times. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Miles did bring some Ultimate Universe origin boxes. Maybe that's Ultimate Doom? It's an interesting idea. I don't know. I would say that Doom tends to wear more of a long cloak than this like kind of short-looking cape. But at the same time, I don't know who this character is supposed to be, because Sentry and Thor have capes, but they're bigger. You know what I mean? Maybe this is a new hero that opened an origin box. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Have there been other non-American writers besides Chip who have had runs on Captain America? John Byrne was technically born in England and raised in Canada. He had a short run on Captain America. I'm trying to think of who else would have had a run on Captain America, but that's one that just pops into my head. It's full of Darkhawk #1s. Yeah, that's Tetsuo. we're gonna bring in Tetsuo. Kaneda! I don't know if I can think of any other prominent writers of Captain America that I know are non-Americans, but there's at least been John Byrne. So probably others. All right. Everybody's decided that this is definitely Darkhawk. You think it's Red Hood? I don't think it's Red Hood because he wears his hood up because he's called Red Hood. So he has his hood up. I know he doesn't have to. It's the master. Always comes back. Who knows if it'll be a fun event or a dumb event? I don't know. But I do like Chip Zdarsky. Marvel also confirmed who the new Sorcerer Supreme is, shocking all of us. No, as strongly suspected. I had a news item where I thought that it was super likely a couple weeks ago, but there's going to be a new Sorcerer Supreme book, and it's Scarlet Witch is going to become the new Sorcerer Supreme. It's written by Steve Orlando, who's been writing most of the Scarlet Witch stuff lately, artist Bernard Chang. Just to catch you up to speed, if you're not reading Doctor Strange stuff, the Vishanti are these godlike beings that give Doctor Strange his powers, or more recently, Doctor Doom. They give the Sorcerer Supreme their powers when it's been decided who will be the Sorcerer Supreme. But they are refusing to give Wanda that title, and instead they grant it to her former mentor, Agatha Harkness. And Wanda ends up getting sent to Limbo, where she's going to have to harness her magical abilities in new ways to combat Madeline Pryor and get home. So that's an interesting start to all of that. I think it was Russell Dauterman redesigned her costume to include, a little bit of the cape as sort of a dress, add some color, some purple up here. I like that. Just sort of make this mystical like energy for the headdress instead of that weird little thing that she wears. Yeah. So that's where they're going magic wise. It could benefit the character. If it's executed well, Scarlet Witch is one of the oldest, female Marvel superheroes. She's been prominent for a long time because she's been in so many Avengers stories, had some stories of her own here and there. You got to push her but forward, give her some big storylines, but you have to execute them well. Could be a really, really good character, but there's a lot of baggage to get through, which is sometimes Captain Marvel's problem too. Well, if you haven't read lately, Agatha Harkness got like de-aged. So she's got like just sort of like a gray streak in her hair, but otherwise looks like a young woman these days. Gotta sexify them. Gotta keep them all sexy. Wiccan would have been cool. But who knows? Maybe it could set up something like that for down the road. Maybe. I think that they also just need to, occasionally build up some of their female characters, and this is Marvel giving a shot at that with Wanda. Maybe. Wanda's had some cool stories, but she also has a very muddy continuity that you have to like take bits and pieces from, but it's very hard to streamline because she's like Magneto's daughter on one hand, and in another she and Quicksilver were raised by Bulva the cow woman by the High Evolutionary, and another story involves like a Cthulhu-esque being imbuing her with magical powers since she was born. And it's just so many different types of stories that like she's been attached to. She's been married to the Vision and had kids, except then the kids were magically created, except then later they were retconned as, reborn teenagers. There's just a lot of potential baggage there. And any of it can be fun to play with, but if you take it all literally, goddamn, you know what? Maybe just lean into it and just say, this character is bonkers. Maybe just lean into it. Don't try to like simplify the continuity into like, you know, a new cohesive thing. And, oh, we'll have to like hand wave away some of the elements that don't fit so well. No, just a bunch of crazy shit happened to her. Southern Bastards is getting a TV pilot. I loved this comic, just so you guys know. I loved it. And it would work very well as a TV show. So anyway, Hulu ordered a pilot for a TV version of Southern Bastards, and that was a crime comic that went from 2014 through 2018. Jason Aaron was the writer. Jason Latour was the artist. He also wrote 2 of the issues. It's a crime comic. It doesn't have anything supernatural, nothing superhero, nothing robot, nothing alien. It's a gritty crime drama. It's set in rural Craw County, Alabama, where football is king and corruption runs deep. The story centers on Earl Tubb, a former resident who returns home and clashes with the town's brutal crime boss, high school football coach Euless Boss. Yeah, he's just like, he cares about 2 things, you know, like running the crime and making sure that his team wins. It's wild. It's a good crime book. It feels like very authentic characters. And that's just sort of where it starts, and then it starts to spread out. But it was never finished. It went 21 issues. Yeah, it was never finished. But that doesn't mean that it couldn't make for a good TV show. The show comes from writers and executive producers Bill Dubuque, who did Ozark and the movie The Accountant. Didn't see that one. And Nia DaCosta, who did both the Candyman reboot and the Marvels. And I've said before, I like the Marvels a lot. I know it didn't do that well financially. I thought it was a super fun movie. I thought it was a really good one. And I don't quite get why it didn't connect with people. It might have been the pandemic. It definitely hurt them from like being able to easily promote it, but I liked it. Yeah, but I don't know. There's a lot that could be told with this. There's a lot. A little bit, but the characters are very well defined and original. Ozark was pretty damn good. I did not love the very end of it, but I didn't detest it either. And the first 4 seasons are fantastic. I'm glad somebody else liked the Marvels. I liked it. The Candyman reboot was a pleasant surprise that it was really technically just another sequel. I like that. I like that because I like Candyman. Okay. This is the kind of show that could be a huge success without people knowing it comes from a comic. That's what I'm thinking. Things like A History of Violence, Road to Perdition, Snowpiercer. These are things that are popular and people don't really know that they're comics. And I think Southern Bastards would work a very similar way. I just wanted to pass it on. Oh, yeah, I mentioned the 21 issues did win both an Eisner and a Harvey. So critically acclaimed for its brief run. Critically acclaimed. Buck Rogers. Everybody remembers, but Buck Rogers he got started as like a pulp story, but very quickly became a comic strip in the earliest days of that stuff. And yeah, Buck Rogers is getting a comic book writer for a movie version. So Legendary Pictures. They're the people behind the Godzilla Monsterverse, Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim's comic is coming out pretty soon, I think. Anyway, they got the rights to Buck Rogers back in 2020. He's a sci-fi guy, a little bit like Flash Gordon too, but Buck Rogers was first. And this week, there was some movement on it. Yes, great Frazetta cover. That's why I was like, oh, an excuse to use a Frank Frazetta image. Let's see. Zeb Wells. Zeb Wells is the writer that we're talking about. He was noted in all the press releases as one of the co-writers of the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, of course, but he's been hired to write the adaptation. If you don't know Buck Rogers, I can understand it. It's not like it's super prominent these days, but does have a lot of history. Created by Philip Francis Nolan. And he first appeared in Armageddon 2419 AD. That was published in the pulp magazine Amazing Stories back in 1929. That means we are right on top of it entering the public domain. Buck was originally introduced as a World War I veteran. It was 1929, folks. World War I veteran who ends up in suspended animation for roughly 5 centuries after being trapped in a collapsed Pennsylvania coal mine and inhaling radioactive gas. Sometimes that happens. You inhale a little radioactive gas, you're going to find yourself being in suspended animation for 500 years. There we go. Buck Rogers versus Roy Rogers versus Kenny Rogers. I'll vote Kenny Rogers every time. And I'll be on that island. Yes. Was there something else I had for that? Yes. When he awakens in the 25th century, Rogers finds himself drawn into a struggle against foreign invaders. He becomes a spaceman and stuff like that. I grew up with the reruns of the Buck Rogers TV show, starring Jill Gerard. Who played Wilma Deering? Oh, she was gorgeous. I can't remember now. Wait, did I say Jill Gerard? Isn't it pronounced Gil Gerard? I think Gil Gerard. In the later seasons, he got a sidekick. Who was it? Now all I can think of is the Rick and Morty parody version, Bird Person. He had this like very stoic Birdman ally. Yeah, Aaron Gray. Thank you. Aaron Gray played Wilma Deering. Hawk. That's right. Hawk. Hawk becomes sort of his like sidekick / partner. But if you've ever seen Bird Person, I liked Twiki, who was this little person in a robot suit. And he had, I want to say Dr. Theopolis, who was like this artificial intelligence on like a clock that he wore around his neck like he was Flavor Flav. And Twiki was voiced by the guy that did all the Looney Tunes voices. I'm bad at names. You guys know this. I can't think of the name, but I loved Twiki as a kid. He'd go, bitty, bitty, bitty. Hey, Buck, let's go. Yep. Hawk was I call him stoic. Yeah. He's very, Mel Blanc. Thanks, everybody. Mel Blanc. I'll never forget this one clip from Buck Rogers that I just want to share. Okay. So, Buck Rogers was sometimes kind of silly. Okay. It was a pretty campy show. It wasn't completely serious sci-fi like maybe Star Trek was more serious, I'll say. So I don't remember the context, but Twiki is at a club and a pink Twiki comes up and she goes, booty, booty, booty. Want to dance, Twiki? And he gets all excited. He goes, bitty, bitty, bitty. Of course. And then you've got like, both Twiki and the pink one just sort of going like this. If you've ever seen the Ewoks dance at the end of Return of the Jedi, same vibes, because whether it was a child or a little person actor, they're in a bulky costume that doesn't have tons of movement. So like, this is the dance that they did. Bitty, bitty, bitty. Of course. Oh, the silliness of the show drove Gil Gerard crazy. I didn't know any of that. Thank you. It's Twiki, I think. Twikki. That was the kind of goofiness. And I saw that as a little kid, and I don't remember the episode or what the episode was about. I just remember that little bit of that one scene. And like, I think maybe Dr. Theopolis was on like the table with Buck, and they were just going like, well, that robot. It was great. Bitty, bitty, bitty. Come on, Buck. All right, we'll go back to the news. There's some more fun news. For instance, this one hurts. A woman has been charged because she was giving out a comic book for trick or treat, but this was the comic she was giving out. Ugh. Anyway, so a woman in Sunset Shores, North Carolina, is being charged by police for handing out inappropriate material to minors. The woman was giving out free comics at an October 30th trunk or treat event for kids, basically just in a park. A bunch of different booths from local businesses were giving out candy and stuff. Well, this one, the woman's right now, she's out on bond. She's apparently the owner of Marvelous Issues comic shop in Sunset Beach. So she was giving out comics, but the comic in question, Grendel Tales. I love Grendel. It's great. But it is definitely not for kids. I mean, it says here not for children, and it's got violence, but here's the thing. It also has full frontal male nudity, which isn't like supposed to be like a turn on or something, but you shouldn't give that to little kids. So I feel bad. She said, well, the parents should be responsible for looking at what their kids read, but I don't know why you'd bring something like that to give away. You know, there's so many better choices. She should have, get some Milo Manara material, get some Druna. It's not for kids. It seems like it's not a great choice. It's not a great choice. I think that like this, there was more comics too, supposedly. Yeah, you're going to give out Faust to kids. I wanted to be on her side, folks. I really, and she might have a good defense that I just don't understand yet. I don't know the full context of how it was given out, or like whether kids got to choose it or if it was just handed to them. I don't know. But I saw some footage on like a local news article of the trunk or treat event, and she had like a cosplayer dressed as Spider-Man there, and it was bright daylight, and they were real little kids, like toddlers and stuff, and I don't understand. I feel like I'm missing something. Like that just seems like a really weird choice to give out. So I don't know. We'll follow the story. Maybe it'll just get forgotten, but it's weird. That's all. So that's why I included it. I was like, am I missing something? I've given out comics before, but I always make sure that they've been like, like there's no room for doubt. They're going to be like Mickey Mouse, kid-friendly Spider-Man, kid-friendly Star Wars, like literally written for young kids. I've given out stuff like that. Sunstone and Saga. Ran out of issues of Cherry Pop-Tart. Yeah, like, whoops. Got no more Cherry Pop-Tart. I guess I'll have to switch over to Grendel. Yeah. I think it would turn me into a comics fan for life, but that's me. No more from me on that one. I don't have any more parts of the news for that. Real quick, Fantagraphics announced a new imprint. I like Fantagraphics quality. I like their choices for artists and writers, so I'm interested. Fantagraphics announced it's going to have an imprint devoted exclusively to East Asian comics. They're calling it Takumi Graphics. Takumi is sort of how you'd refer to an individual, an artist, like if you wanted to call them like kind of like a genius artist or something. I don't have a very good one-for-one translation, I guess I realize, but it's a really positive, complimentary thing for an artist. Takumi. The Takumi Graphics imprint encompasses comics from all across East Asia. We're saying, of course, Japan, Korea, China, Singapore, and Taiwan. I think a lot of times people sort of forget about Taiwan and how they make some of their own comics. They lump it in with China. The graphic novels will begin being released in May. They've got these up on their website already for pre-order. They've got 4 of them. I have to admit, I haven't read any of them, but I generally trust Fantagraphics' tastes. Oh, yeah. Their library editions are incredible. They've done some great ones for EC, for Peanuts, for Dick Tracy, for Marvel, for Disney. Some really good stuff. Yeah, that's a good word. I wish I'd thought of it. Yeah, good, well curated. Well curated. Let's see. 2000 AD books are going to Neon Ichiban. I've got a few things about Neon Ichiban real quick. But Rebellion is the publisher of 2000 AD, Judge Dredd, Strontium Dog, Rogue Trooper, ABC Warriors, a lot of good, cool British comics. They announced that their back catalog and upcoming new releases are going to be available on Neon Ichiban. That's a digital comics platform. They joined Dark Horse, DC, Distillery, Dynamite, IDW, Kodansha, Mad Cave Studios, Marvel, Oni Press, Titan, and Vault. So a lot of publishers have already joined Neon Ichiban. Also this week, Udon Entertainment. They do the Mega Man book right now. I don't know every book Udon does. Sorry. And Legendary Comics. They're doing a Pacific Rim comic, among others. And I think they do some Godzilla stuff. They also joined Neon Ichiban. So it's all eating away at Amazon's legacy system. They'll call it Comixology, but it essentially is just, what is the Amazon reading app? I forget all of a sudden. But whatever that is. Yeah. Neon Ichiban was created by the men behind Comixology. It lets you buy comics same day of release, has back catalog, and you can also buy digital remarks from artists. So you sort of can have your one-off collectible that you could then sell again. I don't know. Oh, Udon also did Street Fighter. That makes sense. Yeah. You got some? What'd you think of the reading app? Did you feel like it was a good reader? No, they only launched like a week or two ago. They signed up all these publishers beforehand. But like I said, it was the guys that designed and ran Comixology before they sold it to Amazon. And that was a really good platform. Easy to use, easy to navigate, easy to read. Kindle is what I was thinking. Thank you very much. Yeah. Essentially, you just got Kindle now. Yeah, it just came out of beta. I had signed up for like a pre-release or the beta version, I guess I'd say. I signed up for it. So I did get like I got Blue Lock. You could choose like one of a bunch of different, like almost every publisher had like one free book that you could get, and I chose Blue Lock, but I haven't had time to mess around with it and read it yet. Last piece of news I have is just that Kodansha published a manga by a U.S. creator. First time. I'm not familiar with this person, although I get the sense that I'm not supposed to be. Vinny Hacker is apparently a TikTok model and gamer. Again, I only got this from reading the news articles. I'm not familiar. But he teamed with Kodansha to publish their first manga that's by a U.S. creator. Kodansha has published Akira, Attack on Titan. They might do Witch Hat Atelier. They do Initial D. Well, tons of big books. Really, really good. The book that they're doing with this guy is called The Escape. It launched on October 8th. I'd missed that, but so it's been up for a month. It's on Kodansha's Comic Days platform in Japan. It's worldwide. We have access to something called K-Manga, and it's available to read for free, the first chapter. The story follows NK, a prisoner trapped in a brutal underground world where captives fight to the death. Co-written with somebody named Shakira Presley and artwork by an existing manga artist from Japan, Hiroto Oishi. Might be, it's a curiosity. Yeah, I don't know. Am I having a stroke or am I reporting to you? And I'm not too deep into TikTok. In some ways, I wish I understood it better. Some of it is like, I guess my age, like, you know, I'm a little more resistant to trying every streaming and social media platform than I'd like to be, but I don't have time to learn how to use it all. I don't have time. You know, I mean, I can see that short form content really resonates with viewers and that you can monetize that stuff. It'd be nice to do, but yeah. You're a model. You're a model, sure. I hope that helps. Finally, just two things that I'm interested in coming up that I thought I'd pass on. One, Hayao Miyazaki. We all love Ghibli films, but he made one manga before becoming, you know, the famous director of animated movies that we all know today. Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind has an 1,100-page box set, 7 volumes, right? It's beautiful. It's normally $80, but right now I just saw that Amazon has the full box set available for $47.89. So if you consider yourself a fan of Ghibli or just interested in some new manga, this is a gorgeous story. That's a really good price for the full set. So there's a link to it. I believe I have it in the description below as well. The other thing I thought I'd mention was this Kickstarter that's coming up. It's just got, you can sign up to be notified for its release right now. It's called Horror Not Hate. I love horror, and I like the message here. Here's the link to it. And it says, it's got lots of people that are both like mainstream artists and writers, as well as like indie, and it's horror stories and art book. And they said that after the campaign ends, they've pledged to make equal donations to CHIRLA for immigrant rights and Lambda Legal for LGBTQIA plus rights. So just sounds like a positive idea. Had some cool people involved, but yeah. This might be the 2-volume hardcover version. Yeah. It's a good price. It's a good price. I wanted to pass it on. Thank you. Yeah. So I think that should do it for the news of the week. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. I will now take any questions. No, next we're going to get straight into reviews, I think, because I've still got a bunch of stuff I want to talk about tonight. Let's get some reviews going.
Let's review.
Review it.
The review.
The reviews are in. I repeat, the reviews are in.
Go to your reviews.
What? Speaking of bad reviews.
Don't worry about that review.
Let's review all the facts.
All right, gentlemen, let's review.
Before we do, let's review.
Those reviews really came out fast.
Maybe we can review some right now?
I'm not going to review all that again.
Now let's review.
Not my worst review.
Let's review, shall we? To review.
I think I've reviewed about as much as I can.
Over here. It's over here. All right. Thank you for your patience as I arranged things. So, yeah, good luck with it. Horror Not Hate is the name of the Kickstarter. Hey, look at that. It's Carl from 247. Well, I don't have Daniel Warren Johnson himself on this time, but I was going to take a look at his latest comic, let me organize a little bit, because I've also got a stack of some indie stuff that I picked up at Short Run that I'd like to talk about. But we'll start with Absolute Batman. Let me arrange things. Let's see. Late to the show. It was nice meeting you and David Short Run. Well, oh yeah, it was nice meeting you too, Abe. Thank you so much. Thank you, Abe. Flew down from Juneau to go to the Short Run Comics Festival, and kindly gave Dave and I each a blank sketch cover of Ed Piskor's Red Room. So that was pretty nice. Let me adjust this. It feels like it's not quite in focus. I want to see if I can get that. Yeah, that's a little better. I hope that's... I have the hardest time getting this set up permanently. You know what I need is like... I need a good arm that can hold the camera. I have sort of a jury-rigged setup for it. But all right. Get this out of the way too. So, what am I saying here? Absolute Batman, first annual. What it has is 2 stories. One by Daniel Warren Johnson, one by James Herron. I think that in some ways they've got a similar vibe to, sketchy, action-packed art. There's some Daniel Warren Johnson. Here's a little bit of James Herron, obviously a little bit more of like a Lean Claire style, but when there's like motion and action, I feel like there's a little bit that's similar in terms of like speed lines, the way that they work actual lettering into the art itself in a similar way. There's a couple little similarities. I'm not saying they're the same, but there's a little bit. So they both wrote and illustrated their stories. How many pages is it? I think it might... I guess it's like at least 48 pages, because I think Daniel Warren Johnson's story is right around 30. And then... No, it could be... I don't think it's 64 pages, but I didn't count. It's $5.99. Both of these are stories that are independent of reading anything else from the ongoing title. This is just trying to tell isolated stories with Absolute Batman. And look, I really love James Herron. I think that his book Ultra Mega is a blast. It's very creative. And this is a good story. At the same time, just because it's got to get compared to what else is in the book as an anthology. And I don't know that it's telling as ambitious a story about Batman himself. It's got some people robbing a house, and I guess it's like one of these masked guys, it's his father's house. And, the house is like been made out of like an old church or something. So it's almost like a castle. And Batman comes in and he takes out a bunch of enemies, which is fine. The action is great. The tension and the suspense and the pacing is fantastic. There's a lot to like about it. At the same time, I think I got a little bit more out of the Daniel Warren Johnson story. And I think that's kind of why most of us are here. But it's not a bad read. It's not like you get this tonal whiplash and you're like, oh, why is this also in the book? It's not that. I'm just saying, if I'm talking about my preferences for what I enjoyed the most, I did enjoy the Daniel Warren Johnson story a little bit more. As far as what story it is, like on one level, it's just Batman goes up against a bunch of white supremacists and absolutely wrecks them in a very sort of cartoony type violence situation. The coloring is great in both stories. But there is, of course, the fact that it's a Daniel Warren Johnson story means that it has a human element at the core of it. And I'm trying not to spoil what it is, but it does involve Bruce Wayne's relationship with his late father on some level. It also involves him getting access to this huge, what do they even call these giant dump trucks? Something like earth movers, I think they're called. I think that, like, when they're this scale, they're called earth movers, which we know he eventually turns into his Batmobile. I have no idea where he'd hide this thing, that it would like be off the records or anything like that. But whatever, it doesn't matter. He's got a huge badass people mover. If you've seen anything online about this, it's probably a pair of panels here that are fantastic. The villains are, like I said, white supremacists that are specifically targeting people in a homeless encampment and just going and wrecking them. And they're getting protected by like the corrupt local police that just put on masks and go in and also cause terror and confusion. And like the leader here, he goes to put his arm up to say white power, right? He's got his arm extended. He's low angle, makes him look powerful and everything. We've seen this escalation where he's beating people. Perfect pacing here where we're going to turn the page for a reveal. And that reveal is a 2-page spread where Batman comes and just breaks that arm. Obviously, I put it in my thumbnail. It's a great moment. It's not the climax of the story, though. That is the beginning of Batman attacking these white supremacists. Look at this thing. That is, first of all, that's great storytelling. We've got, a scene getting established here. We've got the characters getting established. We've got an escalation of the stakes where we know that there's not going to be any authority figures that come in to stop this, okay? So it's getting more and more serious, and you're seeing these jerks, these terrible people, the worst of humanity, attack the most vulnerable with bats. And to have him feel so confident that he can use his, white power signal and have that absolutely upended, have that symbol of power just completely turned the wrong way. That is a disturbing image, right? It is. It's great, though. Here, let me see. I know I got some super chats. Let me acknowledge those because I do appreciate it. This issue sold out everywhere. Oh, I'm not surprised. It's pretty popular. I don't know. How can you hide a 7-foot man? That's a good argument, too, because he is a big guy. He is a big guy. But I think to just give it a little bit of fairness, this is a Batman that people really don't see a whole lot. He really does hide. He hides a lot. Rami, thank you. Do you think that the Joker was the man that visited the village? One of the best comics that came out this year. I don't think so. Let me see. Let me flip back a little. Was there a man that visited? By the way, I'll keep that in the back of my mind, Rami. I don't think so, but maybe. I don't think so, though. Here's the thing. Does this Batman absolutely wreck the bad guys? Yes. I saw some people trying to claim that this is woke, which, first of all, who would say that this is oh, you're being too mean to the white supremacists? That's a pretty easy villain to go after, I think. Second, I saw some of those people that were complaining about this, and I just wanted try to give it a fair shot. People were complaining, saying this Batman is killing these people because of scenes like this, where he's putting his fist through someone's face. But here's the thing. This is kind of cartoonishly over the top, I don't think he's supposed to be killing any of them. He's supposed to be absolutely wrecking them, but I don't think he's supposed to be killing them. I mean, he could have killed this guy, but he just broke his arm. There's a knee to someone's face, but I don't think he's supposed to literally be having his face caved in, because there's no blood. There's no scenes of somebody with a broken bone. And in fact, you see this knocked out guy have, it's too small here for you to see, but his eyes are drawn with a cartoon X. So, it's minimized. Abs Bruce be like, Yao Ming came out of retirement. He's big. He's a big guy. Big. This is, yeah. You can talk about something serious and still have like over the top action to make it adventurous. You don't have to like have it be Dark Knight Returns grim and gritty. In this scene, Batman picks up one of the corrupt police officers up onto his shoulder, puts his arm behind the guy's neck, and drops him on his back and neck. That is over the top and violent, but that is a specific wrestling move. This is a Daniel Warren Johnson trope. That is Kenny Omega's One-Winged Angel, it's called. And it looks fantastic. It just looks so impactful. It's great. There is something more than just like Batman beating these characters up. But I feel like if I explained all that to you, I'm giving away the story. I'm showing you a couple images, and you can decide if that's for you or if it's not. I'll say I found it very satisfying. I found it cathartic. It feels sometimes like we're in such tough times, and it feels like we don't always have time, like the ability to affect change with just like our votes or our wallets, like we should, right? But we can like come up with some villains that we can all recognize as villains. They don't have to have any redeeming qualities because this is a story and we don't have to know their backstories and history and stuff, and have some fun with it. And I think that that's what it gives us. I felt like it was cathartic. I really enjoyed it. That body slam is so over the top amazing, and Daniel Warren Johnson art makes it sing. I don't know how much I needed it until I read this. You do hear sound effects in this. I saw a writer, and all of a sudden it's blanking. I'm blanking on who said it, but they said that they didn't love it when an artist does their sound effects into the art only because then they'd need to always do it, because otherwise it doesn't feel consistent. And I do get that criticism, but guess what? Daniel Warren Johnson does all his own sound effects. There's nothing that the letterer has to do. So it does feel very consistent. It feels like part of the art. A little chack as like, a key is turned, a little rumble of a motor in the back saying like room. It's something that can be very tricky for a letterer to effectively add sometimes, because you have such well-defined fonts, and you can this is great lettering. All of this, like the balloons, it's well placed, it's well spaced. I do like when the artist can add their own sound effects to the background. I think it's great. I think it really fits. And it's something I wouldn't expect the average letterer to be able to do because it's in such a drawn style. It's so much fun. I'm just showing a couple of them, but the spreads are great. Great. And I'll be honest, I think that this book will probably win some awards at the end of the year because it's punchy. Specifically, I don't mean that completely as a pun, but I mean they get in and get out with a story, and it tells it effectively. It's got heart to it. It's got some really great characters that you do get something emotional out of. I think it's really, I think Daniel Warren Johnson's having fun with the art. And it's cool how many different things he can draw. I also really admire how he always has at least one panel that has some really well-defined backgrounds, at least one. Not always. See, sometimes you can leave some blank space and like the colors can also help benefit you, but you need at least one to establish the scene on every page. At least one panel have some really good backgrounds. Did I miss another super chat? Oh, yep. Sorry. Troopers, please go to the polls tomorrow. Local elections. Chrissy, I think, has already voted. I need to. That's awesome, Steve. I just mean like once this comes up for like the next round of Harveys and Eisners and stuff. That's all I mean. Look, the bottom line is, do I recommend this book? Absolutely. It's a blast. I think it's in keeping value-wise with everything else you'd get. If I'm shortchanging James Herron, I do apologize, because it is not in any way a bad story. It is a great comic. I wonder if in some ways this should have been first to like, because the first story is so action-packed and this is all suspense-based, and I don't know which one would have read better first and which one would have been read better second. I'm sure DC did give that a lot of thought before they did one or the other. It's good. It really is good. I love the colors in this. Let me see who colored this one, because I know Mike Spicer colored the Daniel Warren Johnson one. These colors are by Dave Stewart, and Dave Stewart's also really good at picking a nice, appropriate color palette, a somewhat limited palette a lot of times, so that it doesn't overwhelm the art and doesn't muddy it up. And I think that this really does imply a dark house at night, because look, when we walk around in the dark, are our walls actually blue and purple? No, but it feels right. There's a verisimilitude and it feels right. It's very good. Strongly recommend this book. Wow, your favorite, Brunson? That's awesome. He's very, very good. Whoa, what's this? It's a blast, but is it a Baja Blast? I'm just having regular sugar-free Mountain Dew. I had a coffee earlier today too, so I'm feeling good. I love caffeine. All right, what else? I had one other new comic. I'm going to zoom this in just a little bit more, and then try to fine-tune the... There. That's good. All right. The other new one that I got, this is a variant cover for it. It's Feral issue 17. And oh my God, do things go bad. So these are our survivors, our heroes. A bunch of cats, one dog, but all sorts of different cats. You know, they've been from different types of families, or even this one, Lucky, is more of like, you know, a tomcat out on the streets. 3 of them are kittens. 1 is deaf, ghost, and our survivors are living in a world full of essentially zombies, but really it's just a super strain of rabies. Okay, they thought they found safe haven at a pet store, except it was being run by a bunch of weird cultists that were eating their young. So some of the cats have let in the zombies to create chaos and escape. It is a bonkers scene. Look at this 2-page spread on the top of like them seeing just the carnage of all these rabid animals, foxes and cats and dogs, like coming in and just tearing the place to shreds. But yeah, the system deserved to be broken down. You know, this is a zombie story classic. You know, you think you found safe haven, but like the people are worse than the monsters. Our heroes are just trying to survive this. It builds up, though, to one of our main characters maybe being a bigger villain than even the people that they were up against. So every time the characters seem to be reaching a point where things can't get worse and have to get better, the story just shifts and you get a worse villain. This book is fantastic. I blast through this every time. I love it. I love it. Oh, thank you. I love it too. Things do go bad, yes. Hey, thank you so much, Jacob. I appreciate the support. The t-shirt slaps. It's something that Fantagraphics sells directly if you guys want one. Anyway, look, Feral is an ongoing story, and this is issue 17, so it's not easy to recommend it on the same level that you can just recommend a one-shot annual, right? Even if you haven't been reading any of the Absolute books, you could read this and get everything you need. Do I think that this is a bad jumping on point for the story, though? No. I think that every issue has done a great job at establishing exactly where the characters are, what their goal is, and that helps you then just have like the tension of going, okay, this is what the heroes want to do. Who knows if that's the best option, but this is what they want to do to survive. And so that's what they're going for. And we just always know that right from the beginning of each issue. Boy, is it good. Boy, is it good. I also do I don't think I've shouted this out before, but at the back, they print photos of people's pets that get emailed in. And I think that that's adorable. I love it. My favorite is probably the one that references Friday the 13th 6, Jason Lives. That's my fave. Okay, so that's what I read for new stuff, but I did read some other comics that I want to shout out. Let me put them over here. I haven't read this one yet, but it looks really cool. This is by Ken Landgraf. It's called The New York City Outlaws. And it struck me a little bit as an American take on something like Fist of the North Star. Lots and lots of fights with gangs, punk gangs. I was like, it looks really dope. Sort of that weird, not quite authentic, but more authentic than we'd think these days. New York of the 80s, full of gangs and actual fights. It looks like a lot of fun. I guess it comes from something called Power Comics and Floating World Comics, which is a shop down in Portland, right? Portland. Anyway, it looks fun. I just haven't had a chance to read that one yet. I'm looking forward to that. Ones that I did read. Tales of Paranoia. I like autobio comics and biographical comics. I think they're really interesting because you can really get into somebody's head with thought balloons or just telling whatever's relevant to a character's story. Like you can easily do flashbacks and it's relevant, you know? Anyway, Tales of Paranoia is Robert Crumb writing and illustrating, and he's talking about how he has all these paranoid ideas. And he talks about where it might come from. For instance, his mother, for many years, was on what we then thought were called diet pills, but they were amphetamines. She took them for 20 to 25 years, and it made her really, really paranoid. But in the modern day, Crumb is like, well, I'm starting to feel paranoid. I don't do that. Like maybe it's actually a genetic thing. And he talks about what paranoia is. And he talks about some of his personal paranoid thoughts. For instance, he thinks that, maybe, not definitely, but maybe that COVID was manufactured and just to get companies rich. But to be fair, he's got one of his close friends who's a doctor that breaks down the science. And he's like, you can have your doubts about big business and about politicians and stuff, but you have to trust science and how science works and the scientific critical consensus. And I like that he was at least presenting that side and not just his own fears and his own sort of conspiracy type theories. Are you getting a lot of dynamic shot variation? No, that's not what you get with Crumb. What you do get is a very realistic set of gestures and expressions and some very deep thoughts. Like there's a lot of text in this. So this is not the same as reading, say, Absolute Batman. You have to like put down your phone, carve out some time to sit down and be ready to engage, right? To pay off what you'll get out of this. You get out of it what you put in so there's some effort involved, and that's not what everybody wants in a comic. But I like variety, and I sometimes am willing to watch a very serious movie, read a dense book, read a comic that has a lot of text. Sometimes you get something out of that by putting in some effort. I also like that there are clever little jokes, to be clear, like this reference to the old 1960s ads for the Charles Atlas exercise system. There's also a lot of humor in the dialogue and in the characters. So very interesting. Crumb hadn't made a comic in over 20 years. And it's just, he's definitely a huge figure in underground comics, and you have to respect that on some level. So the same way that I would get excited by, later Steve Ditko, even if he was drawing, say, Speedball instead of Spider-Man, I get excited by later Crumb that's talking about life with a completely different viewpoint, with all the history and wisdom, such as it is, that he's accumulated. Let me think for a minute. He might be in his early 80s by now. I don't remember the year he was born. That's an interesting question. His wife did pass away the other year, so that's a little sad. But he doesn't dwell on like sad stuff. He just has, like, it's all about different aspects of what paranoia is and what conspiracy theories are. And, he admits that it's not healthy. It's not healthy. It's very political, but it's also very, very personal. Oh, thanks for looking that up. 82. 82. Look at that. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. He's made he's done some short comics and stuff. He just hasn't done a full single issue like this. Okay. Wow. He still doesn't do a lot these days. It was interesting. I'll say, do I absolutely adore it? No, but I do like it. And I thought it was interesting. Here's some that I really liked. Dave, West Coast Dave Vengers, introduced me to this guy, Nate McDonough, who has been doing autobiographical comics for many years. And a lot of what he does in this book, Longboxes, is about him buying collections and flipping through big comic book stores' back issues, looking for the stuff that's valuable and flipping it, as well as making his own comics. So this is deeply nerdy, folks. This has if you won't get all of this unless you read comics, because he's just got all sorts of people that will talk about Ultraman or their Unicron action figure, and you have to understand what he's talking about. But he also talks about how he goes through these comics very slowly, and sometimes somebody will get up right against him to flip through the comics. It's very funny. It's so, look at this. Look at how mad this person's getting about not Punisher Warzone, Punisher War Journal. It's very, very nerdy, but it's funny and it feels so authentic. If you've ever read comics, gone to a comic book store, looked at comic collections at a yard sale, oh my God, just fantastic. So insightful. And while it's got a continuing narrative, each page to 2 pages kind of tells a full segment, a full idea. So it's really, really funny. Reminds you of Piscor? Yeah, I could see some of that. I'll say this. Having met Nate, this is how he draws himself like this, with this huge bump and nose and scraggly hair. I thought he was actually a pretty handsome guy. He was like in shape. He was very tall. He had a nice pair of glasses. I was like, he draws himself like an absolute monster. I was like, it's really cool. It's really cool. If you guys like comics about comics and comics culture, I strongly mention this. I recommend this because it's funny. It's so insightful. Because there's so many different types of weirdos that you meet, and he isn't making fun of all of them. A lot of them he's like being nice to or and stuff, but it's still funny. It's still super funny. I worked at a shop in the 90s and it hit on all levels. It's really good observations. Really good. I got one more that's not an autobiographical comic, but is about crazy relationships. This is a book by Josh Pettinger. It's called Goiter, and it's also published by Floating World Comics. It's printed on basically like newsprint. And if it looks like something like Chris Ware or something, that's somewhat intentional. I think that he's an influence. I read Pettinger's newest book, Tedward, recently, and I talked about that on the show. It's hilarious. But you have to be into cringe humor. You know, The Office or something like that. Like really like awkward humor. Like stuff where the main characters, something weird going on with the light there. Stuff where the characters aren't always likable, or they're just put in horribly abusive situations and you just have to go with it. I laughed a lot at this. This has so many awkward relationships and so many awkward people making all sorts of different types of mistakes or just bad things happening to them even though they don't deserve it. The first one, I'll just talk about the first quick story. They're all different little stories. There's a guy named Henry, who's basically a stand-up comedian, a traveling stand-up comedian that uses a ventriloquist. He's in the middle of absolutely nowhere. He's from Chicago, but he goes like some really small gig, performs there. He rents like an Airbnb. In the morning, he wakes up from the Airbnb, and somehow he got like a piece of clothing stuck to the back of his clothing when he stayed at this Airbnb, and it's a missing girl. And the small town police instantly like arrest him and assume that he's a child killer, and he goes to jail. It gets a horrible public defender. It gets like just a terrible time, but then gets out of prison because it turns out like the girl had just wandered into the woods and died. Like nobody killed her. And he comes home after all of this, and his girlfriend has left him. That's the kind of thing you get. All I can say is you have to like laugh at how horrible the situation is to get that. If I had to complain about anything, it's only this. The newsprint, I wish it was brighter, because you have to have a good light on to actually be able to read this stuff, okay? It's a little murky. It's a little dark. And the text is printed very small. And it's a very hand-lettered thing. So I really had to like, I've got progressive glasses, and I like an old man. I'm like looking through my bifocals going like, I couldn't just read it from a distance. It is funny though. It's very funny. But I'm just saying you have to be into that style of humor. Okay. I liked it. I liked it a lot, but it's heartbreaking stuff. The last book I read this week was, I like newsprint can be very good, but the colors have to work within it. Kingdom. Kingdom is a manga that's been running since, I don't know, somewhere in the 90s. I got to double check. I want to say 96, but it might be even earlier. But we'll say 96. It's in the 70s for how many of these volumes exist, okay? But while it's a manga from Japan, it is specifically about China history. including a bunch of real life people. This is about the period after the Warring States period. So like a couple hundred years before the Common Era, like 245 BCE in the kingdom of Qin, which will, anyway. What's it about? It's about a war orphan who will, he wants to one day be the greatest general in the nation. He wants to improve his lot in life by being a general. And he ends up through a series of events. He's very young. He's only like 13 or 14, but he has been training with wooden swords with his, this is the main guy, Lee. Lee. And Piao is his sort of adoptive war orphan brother. And they just fight each other in the woods every day, training to become good fighters so that they could become generals and become better, okay? And through a series of events, he ends up with the very young king defending him because the king's younger brother stages a coup. Beyond that, I won't go too far. This is all real history, to be clear. This is all real history. This is based on a real person. There's some fictional people that are added and some very over-the-top fighting and stuff, but these are real people. Very well documented. And it's about how after, I think China was like fighting these wars for like about 500 years before they finally started to get united into something that is recognizably China today. So it's an interesting period of history for sure. It's an interesting period. Very long ago, but surprisingly well documented. It's an interesting underdog story as well. You know, it's not radically different from, say, something like Spartacus, where, you know, a slave becomes a warrior, becomes, you know, a leader. So as far as historical fiction goes, it's quite interesting. A lot older than most of the even historical fiction that I've read. I don't know if I've ever read historical fiction quite this old, to be honest. 245 BCE. I don't adore the art. It's serviceable. Okay. Certainly the backgrounds and stuff are good. They've got assistants and stuff that are good. I can tell the characters apart and I can tell what's happening. So like the pacing is good. I don't love the style. You know, it's a very simple cartoony style. It's not the kind of detail that I prefer, but I'm probably going to give this at least one more volume because I find the story really interesting. More interesting than I thought I would. I love Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga, I do like more than this. I think it's a little more nuanced. But then again, I'm only reading volume 1 of this, and I know that it has continued for a very long time, which means it's very popular. So, let's see. Is it like those historical epics that John Woo made called Red Cliff? It's better than that. It's better than that. I don't think that's a very strong John Woo thing. The editor accidentally left an emote on the inside cover. Well, I don't see anything. Is it this you're talking about? I don't know. I like underdog stories, rags to riches, you could call them, but you know, about somebody forging their own destiny and going from nothing to something huge, and there's a lot of that. Age of Bronze. That's fair. That wouldn't be radically different time-wise from this, I guess. Yeah. I like historical fiction sometimes, but you have to have characters that you care about. Berserk is a favorite of mine, an absolute favorite. It starts so dark, but boy, did I grow to like those characters. Tell you what, I'm going to just doodle a little bit and talk. So, I'm not familiar with with Sangokushi. I'm not familiar with that, I'm afraid. So I don't have that point of reference. You know what? Real quick, I'll just choose what my favorite thing that I read was out of this. And it's going to absolutely shock you. Because, I mean, got a manga that's in the 70s for volumes. I've got, Robert Crumb, so important to comics. No, folks, come on. It's the Daniel Warren Johnson story, an absolute Batman annual. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. This thing was a blast. This thing felt like it got my heart pumping, and it felt like good at the end. So good. So good. Underdog stories like the 1969 New York Mets. Maybe a little bit of more stakes than that, Steve. No, really, really strong. Totally recommend it. Hopefully I've given you some details on the tone and a hint at like what the art is for some of these different books so that you can decide if any of this, like, indie comics or manga is for you. And let me bring up a page here. I've got like some very light sketch lines, and I was going to try to draw Absolute Batman. I don't know if I'm capable. I hope I am. And talk with all of you. So it was a tough week for me, folks. Oh, that's kind of a fun thing to talk about. I've seen the first 2 episodes of Welcome to Derry. So Welcome to Derry, folks, is a prequel to It. So it's really extrapolating a lot of the ideas that Stephen King laid down, but all new characters, really. Well, not all. In fact, there's one character that I recognized very quickly who shows up in the book The Shining. That was cool. It's pretty good. If you liked both It movies, you'll like it. Is it as good as the first It movie? No. Is it as good as the second It movie? Yeah, about that good. It's an interesting mythology, and they've got some good characters and certainly some huge surprises. And the violence is, I did not expect quite that. So like I was like, yeah, this is scary enough. It's pretty well done, and it feels authentic but new. So yeah, I like it. I don't love it, but I like it. Okay. What else? Oh, in episode 2, there are some comic book references because this is produced and directed by Andy Muschietti, who did both of the It movies, but also did The Flash. And it's set back in the 50s, and there is a kid reading a copy of The Flash, which is The Flash of Two Worlds. And I was like, okay, that's an in-joke for people. Yeah, It too wasn't that good, but it was an okay conclusion. But that was also, in my opinion, like that was kind of a failing of the book itself. And you don't really feel the weakness of the adult side of the equation in It as much because it flashes back and forth. But by separating it into 2 time periods, it was kind of obvious that like one story was stronger than the other. But it was a fair enough conclusion. It was a fair enough conclusion. Might have a reference to it. Might have a reference. So if you know your Stephen King lore, there are connections to be appreciated. We've got our dairy jokes. We've got our dairy puns coming. Very good, folks. For Halloween, I wore what I put on during the show last week. I went as just sort of a street level Dr. Doom. almost look more like MF Doom than Doom.
Richards!
Yeah, I had a friend have a Halloween party the weekend before, so I did get a chance to wear that, and that was fun. There are lots of Stephen King references. Yeah, it was fun. What else? Is there anything else that I saw recently? I don't know that there is. I saw a movie recently. What was it? Oh, I guess Black Phone 2. I saw it. It was okay. It was okay. What else? Oh, so last Thursday, originally my goal was to finish editing the latest Comic Tropes episode. Obviously, that didn't happen. Bunch of things fell into my lap that delayed me. And I just want to talk about it a little. But the episode will be up very soon. I'm almost done. I start my day, and Jim Mafood reaches out, and he goes, Chris, did you upload the latest trash movie Bonanza? And I go, yeah, I set it to go live this morning. He goes, I don't see anything. So I log in, and it's pretty early for me, but I log in, and it's been copyright blocked by the studio that owns the movie. Sometimes they'll claim it, and you just like dispute that, and in the meantime, the money is held in escrow. Whatevs. But this one was copyright blocked. Like, they didn't want it to be seen. Going, that's bullshit. And I wanted it to be up because it was Jim's last day of having his Kickstarter funding for Arachnid Enforcer. You can still do late pledges, but it was the last day to do the actual campaign and unlock things. So I want it to be up. But the way it works when a studio does a copyright block like that is, first you have to appeal it, and they have up to 30 days to respond to that. So I put in the appeal. Or no, it's called a dispute at first. So I put in the dispute. But that, like I say, I've got 30 days, and the goal is to have the episode up so that it can promote Jim's Kickstarter. And I think, and I go, okay, well, what if I uploaded another version, but I don't monetize it? Maybe then it won't get claimed. Because I had uploaded this beforehand, unlisted, and it's supposed to tell you if there's any copyright claims, and there weren't. So it was just like when it went live for money, that was like when they were like, no. Anyway, so yeah, I stumbled down to here, the basement. It's early, and I upload another version, which takes a while, and I don't monetize it, and that's up for that day. And it helped, get in some last minute pledges. And then by the end of that day, they copyright block that one as well. So I just delete that non-monetized version, and then they actually responded to my dispute and rejected it. So now my option is this. I can appeal that dispute. But to do that, you have to give them all your contact information, your name, where you live, and like argue your case. You have to like write why you're supposed to be allowed to show this movie. If you win, great. Your video goes up. You can monetize it. It's not like we really make any money on these, like $1 or $2. We spend a lot more editing it, but that's okay. That's okay, because we like doing it. We like doing it. So I do the dispute, but here's the thing. Or I appeal it. That's the last thing you can do. if you lose your appeal, you can theoretically get a copyright strike against your channel. If you get 3 of those, your channel is like just deleted and you can't start a new one. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. But I did appeal it, and I'm waiting to hear back. They've got like a week to respond to that. We'll see what happens. You know, I think that what I was doing is fair use, and I think we'll win. But that was how the day started. And then I want to get started on editing. But I had told my sister that Chrissy and I would do something for her. She has an annual craft fair that she makes stuff for to benefit her church. And we said that we would draw a coloring book of the town. And we'd been working on it for a couple months, drawing pictures. And then our tabloid printer, so that you can print it 11 by 17, fold it in half, staple in the middle, our tabloid printer died. And we're running out of time now to get it FedEx to my sister. So now it's the last day. And as a backup, I'm like, well, what if I use my regular printer? Print it on regular letter size paper, get like some binder clips, and buy a bunch of ink at like Staples and buy a bunch of binder clips and just make them one at a time. It took the entire day to print 20 of them. And I should have called ahead to FedEx to check on this. But I thought that the last pickup time was when they close. But no, I got there towards the end of the day and I missed their last pickup by 15 minutes. So I spent the entire day working on a dispute on YouTube and printing these last minute things instead of editing my episode. And I feel like I failed on both fronts because the episode still got copyright blocked and I missed the FedEx time to get my sister these coloring books. So I felt like I was letting everybody down, including my audience, because I hadn't finished editing the episode. And I just felt like such a worthless piece of crap by the end of the day. It was just one of the worst days. Just terrible. I felt and I still feel so stupid about how I spent my time and how I didn't get it all done. Because I still don't quite have the full YouTube episode up. Anyway, it was just a bad day, and I still feel bad about it. Anyway, but now I can talk about the positives in life. After going through all of that, I was like, I need to do something for me and to try to just relax, okay? I needed to... I know it can be used another time, but I still feel terrible about it. And I feel terrible about not getting my episode out. I really wanted to get my latest Comic Tropes episode out just before Halloween. And obviously that didn't happen. So I feel dumb about that. Anyway, I had the weekend off. And Dave was like, let's go to the Short Run Comics Festival. The local indie comics festival. And I was like, yeah, I think I need that. And I'm really glad I went. A few people recognized me because they watch the channel. That's always really flattering and encouraging. I think I found, as I showed you, some really cool indie books. I didn't even show you everything I picked up. I kind of went a little nuts because I found so many cool things. And that really helped me feel better to just hang out with a friend, Dave, and to meet really cool people. It was nice. And, at the end of the day, I'm Carr. Thank you, Steve. On a scale of break stuff by Limp Bizkit and I'm Not Okay, I Promise by My Chemical Romance. Where do you fall? We all appreciate you and Jim, Trash Movie Bonanza. I was closer to Adam's song. I was really low at the end of Thursday. I was really low. But I had work the next day and just getting into the sort of grind of just regular work and seeing I liked my coworkers and that kind of helped me get back on track. And now I'm really close to finishing the edit on the episode, which is good. I don't know. Oh, and so then the next day, Chrissy was feeling like she had some pretty good energy, which is, a special thing for me these days. And we went for just a little while to a local toy show. It was only a couple bucks to get in. And we were like, you know what, just to like look at all the weird, cool vintage stuff and reminisce and stuff, that'll be kind of fun. And we went and did that, and I did have a good time. Yeah. I didn't like buy any G.I. Joes or anything like that, but it was fun to look at them. It was so the weekend helped me recover a little bit. I also spent like at least half of each of those days editing. So I'm very close to getting the latest episode up for everybody, which I'm very proud of. I can't wait to share it with everybody. I think it's going to be one that people appreciate. I hope, obviously. We'll see. Should be fun. Yeah, friends and comic festivals, exactly. Keep rolling. What? I remember that era of Undertaker as a biker. I remember that. It felt weird when he went back to being supernatural after being like sort of so down to earth for so long. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just sort of like riffing on an idea. But it's not really coming out the way I wanted it to. So I'm probably going to bail on this art. No one wants American Badass Undertaker. Yeah, I was sort of going to do like here, I'm just going to go faster and see what happens, but I'm going to draw like absolute Batman dropping an elbow, but I think I needed to plan it out more because this was looking like way too like a little kid drew it. I don't know. I'm not happy with this art. Yeah, I don't know. You can kind of get the idea of it, but it's not very good. Oh well. Sometimes it just doesn't work. I like Yorick. What's that mean? Dog names that start with Y. Chris reads out of context comics. I missed too much. Sorry. Oh, look at that. Anything you think I should ask Silvestri? You know, the one I'd personally just be the most interested in knowing, but I don't know if everybody else would care, is just why he decided to do his Witchblade and Darkness reboots right now. Whether that was responding to things like Energon Universe and Absolute Batman and Ultimate Marvel, or if it was just like already in the works outside of all of that. I'd be very curious to know where that came from, that like, you know, now was when he wanted to do the reboot. But congrats on getting Silvestri. Great guest. You've had a lot of really good guests in the last year. Well done. Trying to think what else to talk about. Sorry. Got a little quiet there. Oh, I heard from Harry Partridge that he's definitely planning on doing another comic in 2026. I think that his comic for Starbarians was one of the best to come out in 2025. So actually, I'm not too far off from needing to start thinking about what the best comics of the year were. There's an emoji inside of Goiter. Oh, yeah. There's an emoji. What? Why is that there? That's weird. There's like a little embarrassed or shy smiley face on this drawing of a chair. What? All right. Yeah, so I was just going to draw Batman here. With a drop in an elbow. I don't know what I'm doing. Just having fun. All right. Is there anything else? Oh, okay. Jeannie just texted me. We have to name the puppy something with a Y. That is a really cute puppy. Can I get the puppy? How big is it going to get? I want a puppy. That would probably really do a lot for my mental health. I don't know. Maybe it would be too much to take care of, but I don't think so. I would love a dog. I would love a dog. Okay, so I guess after this, I'm going to quickly put in some chapter breaks, and then I'm going to wrap up the edit of the latest comic tropes, I think. Oh, it's going to get big. I can't have a big dog. Never mind. How about... and it has to be with a Y? What would be a good name with a Y? Oh, that's so funny, Wally. How about Yip Yap? How about I'm Dog? Ooh, I kind of like Yogi. Oh, Yeti. If he's going to be big, he should be Yeti. Yeti is good. Yeah, what kind of a dog is it, Jeannie? Did you say? Yakuza. That's a dangerous dog. That's one of them dangerous dogs. I will sell this for $500. And I won't keep working on it. This is what you get. It's $500. Tell you what. I want to mention something again. This was a sponsored episode.
Hi, this is Greg Weisman, the Gargoyles writer, here to report that on January 14th, 2026, you will not want to miss the Gargoyles Darkwing Disney Afternoon crossover event, co-plotted by myself and Darkwing creator Tad Stones, written by me, and with art by Ciro. It is a funny as hell comic book for this unlikely combination. Check it out.
Salutes. Salutes. Double salute. Double salute. Thank you again. That was my pleasure to be able to share that. And I hope everybody that's into one, the other, both, or just the creators enjoy going to get that in January. Double salute. Put it in your attic and wait 80 years. Wasn't that an amazing story? I feel like that was kind of a feel-good story in a way. It's like nobody wants to deal with a passed away parent, but if they pass away and then you find a treasure in the attic, that's kind of cool. Excited for Margot? I almost said it. Excited for more Gargoyles. I think it's cool that they also did the Fantastic Four crossover. That was fun. But yeah, I'm going to get to work on editing the episode, folks. I think it's a good time to wrap it up. But thank you all for being here. It means a lot to me. Remember to hit like and subscribe. Maybe even hit the notification bell. That stuff all really helps a lot. I don't really know much, so I'll just say shishi. Thank you. And take care, everybody. Keep reading comics.